You think I care about a lawsuit? When you have people like this and people we're talking to every single day going through this? Whether it's the governor, whether it's your congressman.
My abuser murdered me at the age of 5. 43 years since I've spoken up. 17 bishops. But I'll just read from the end. This can't continue. Sexual abuse, ritual abuse, trafficking. The church covering it up and making victims doubt themselves at their own reality. They were equally my abuser, co-conspirators. It's one thing to hear the stories from the Hamlin girls about SRA and ritual abuse. I'd understand that murder and sacrifice, the alleged murder and sacrifice in those victim statements are evil, but you can see the evil that lingers in the story that Mary Beth shared with us today.
And I'm not her anymore. Because for a long time I was room number 46. But until I found a trauma therapist, and they do exist, a PTSD therapist that knew how to work with someone who works with polygamy, who works with trafficking, they do exist. That's when I really started to heal and to get my name back and get my identity back. By the time I was 14 or 15, I was walking there on my way home from school. Sometimes after school, I would actually walk to the Blue Angel. Jack told me that I had become a part of them because he no longer had to ask me to come. My parents have both passed away. I did not ever tell them. Because of that, they cannot defend themselves. So I will say that if they had known, they would have done something. I have written many people who come and say they pull our advertising money.
The church would.
And told him I was a fraud. The church building where I went to church has been torn down. Jack is in the ground. My perps are dead, that we know about. So he actually was shown the ledger. Everyone that I remember being abused by has died.
You even went to Senator Harry Reid.
That was when I was grown up.
Okay, it's so important. Tell us about that.
It was when I decided to become, go out in public and start telling my story. Harry Reid was actually a member of my ward for quite a while before my time. So it was actually in the paper. My name.
And you have this. This is one of the documents. Mm-hmm. Put that on the screen too then. Okay.
But my freshman year, there were 3 times that I recognized men who had come to find me and silence me. So all 3 times I reported to the BYU police. But there were dozens of little girls, younger than I was. I was getting on the older age, that had the same sheet I did next to their bed. We went together to talk to a high school counselor. She listened intently. She did not report, and he did not report. None of the English teachers I wrote to about it reported. It was failure after failure after failure. Yeah, so I made a list today about the people I told before the age of 18 and it was actually more extensive than I remember, and what it was like to be nameless.
This is a little girl who was basically, murdered as a child.
It actually came to haunt them because DNA stays a long time in doll hair, especially when you refuse to wash your doll. So it came back to bite them in some way. Something, it's obviously fake hair, but it was something that the men could obviously cover their penis in and masturbate in. I did not want that to happen after the first few times because there were quite a few men who liked to masturbate in her hair to tease me or to make me obedient.
Please, let's first talk about the doll, because that was, when you told me that, I mean, literally broke my heart. The fact that you saved this.
After 40 years.
Golden shower.
Which, I mean, I don't want to completely scare our viewers with all of the horrific things. We'll put them up on the screen.
Just $35.
Disgusting.
Then there's all kinds of add-ons.
So I would have been 11 in 85. As much as we can have a handwriting expert figure that out.
So, Alexia, why don't you take a look at that? Why don't you read some things that stick out to you? Just, again,
Well, the first
9-year-old little girl.
Well, the first thing that sticks out to me is actually agency prices, which tells me it's an enterprise.
Yeah,
This isn't just...
I believe so. It's been hard because my perpetrator is dead. Initials and appears to be what men owe.
And then tell us about the ledger. You have it here.
I do, yeah.
I
grabbed it, of course. Keep it in a safety deposit box. So when I was 11, I noticed that there was a new piece of paper that was taped to the nightstand next to my bed. And it had all of these terminologies that I didn't understand and prices next to them. It was laminated. It was a permanent feature whenever I was there. And I decided I needed to look up what everything meant. And so I took a piece of stationery from the motel, and that is my 11-year-old cursive handwriting. If I was going to be with a lot of men that night, or if it was a VIP who needed me to be very compliant, that I would be given. I think part of it was not wanting them to know my name, but I think a part of it was not wanting to give me an identity to have anyone relate to me or want to not abuse me because all of a sudden I'm a person. This man I didn't know, and I was now naked in a bed in a hotel room, and he was leaving me. And so as he was leaving, the man handed him some money and asked my name. And he told him that I had no name. And he pointed at the room number on the door and said, just call her that. What followed was many years of losing my name. That's how they asked for me. It was the room I was in pretty much every time I went. I screamed and screamed for him to not leave me. I was 9 going on 10. The first time I was taken to the Blue Angel on Fremont Street, and taken into a room. He walked me in, and within about 10 or 15 minutes, a man I did not know, kind of recognized, but didn't know, came in. They talked for quite a while, forced me to undress. When I refused to, because I didn't know this man, that's when Jack started flicking my eye. And I just knew that meant, I can't punish you now, but wait. And so I was obedient. He left me with him. And so on a few occasions, he invited another man in. But I think it became problematic because the more people you're bringing into this during church, the more likelihood you're going to get caught.
So up until 8, everything is pretty much isolated to inside the ward on those, what was it, Sundays?
Yes, very much so. Just him in the bathroom. He told me when I was about 8.5, going on 9, that I was now outside his age preference. And I told him, because the bishop's office I walk by, I said, he walks me by your office. When we walk by, why don't you have your door open? And I doubt I said it that clearly since I was just little, but you can sit in your chair and watch us walk by. Then you would know, right? You would know if it was true or not. He had his door closed as long as I could remember.
He didn't want to know.
Everybody knew who he was. Him coming in and saying, again, I don't know what he said every time, but him coming in and saying, hey, her parents want her, or I've been asked to walk her. My grandparents lived next door. My aunt and uncle lived across the street. Everybody knew each other. We were in downtown Las Vegas. And I told him what was happening, when it had started, the name of the perp. And I was using terminology that kind of, I think, shocked him a little bit. So he knew, he said he believed me. And he said, I will take care of it. I will tell your parents for you. I will get the help that you need. But I have this memory of sitting across the table from him and parents at the time. So I think it was just outside the wheelhouse, but I refused to go to the bathroom. Like, I would not go at my house. I had brothers in primary, not my class, but I was not alone. He was a prominent member of the ward. Everybody knew who he was. And he laid on top of me, raped me completely with penetration. I still can have severe anxiety from listening to doors. I heard it so many times during the 2 to 3 years that he would rape me. It was 2 to 3 times a month. Still to this day, when I am in an LDS building, I can hear the sound of that door. And all of the doors in LDS buildings kind of sound the same. They have that air pressure. And he continued to tell me that my parents wanted to see me. He took me in that bathroom and locked the door. And so he would walk me from primary on one side of the building, past classrooms, bishop's offices, through the lobby of the church, and through the gymnasium, and to the bathroom. The first time I was 5, and everybody knew it was there, but it just wasn't used very often. So I was in the ward, and yeah, I was 5 years old. The church had just changed from primary being on Thursday to actually the 3-hour block. It was about 1980, 81, when I was first taken out of my primary class and raped in the bathroom of the church building. So I grew up in the same home my entire childhood until I left for BYU.
So Mary Beth, your story starts somewhere around age 5?
Correct. Depending on the night, depending on the excuse he would use to get me out of my home. Sometimes it was one man, sometimes it was 3 to 4. It would happen 2 to 3 days a week, and I would go home and go to school, and nobody knew what was going on. My perpetrator, who we'll talk about later, would pick me up and take me to a hotel. And so I just was not the typical child that you tend to think of with trafficking. I continued to go to school. I lived at home. I was blessed, baptized, and left, all in the same church building.
It just tore me apart as I listened to her story.